Welcome to Resilience Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Ostrolenk. This show is about building better humans, institutions, and systems. On the show, I'll be interviewing many different experts from across many different fields, including human optimization, health and fitness, team building, mind-body medicine. In the institutional space, we're looking at different institutions and how we can create new ones, new models and maps, including in medicine, in education, in intelligence community, in law enforcement, in the military, especially in the special operations community. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Today, I'm excited to welcome Michael Stohner to the show, a retired U.S. Army Green Beret and intelligence professional who now leads Nomad International, a Honolulu-based training and advisory firm dedicated to building readiness, resilience, and operational capacity for wildlife protection teams, reserves, and high-stake field operations around the world. Michael brings decades of special forces experiences and a unique blend of tactical tradecraft, leadership development, and situational awareness training to conservation and security challenges through his signature Silent Watch framework. Good to see you, Mike.
Wonderful to be here. I'm honored to be on your show and look forward to the conversation with you.
Yeah, very much me too. I've been watching your work and I'm looking forward to diving into, what you do internationally at this present time with your Nomad International work. But before we get there, tell me what led you originally to Army Special For or the Army Special Forces? Tell me a little bit about your background, your story.
Sure. I'm originally from the island of Oahu. I'm a local boy from Hawaii.
Okay.
Um, and my parents were both German immigrants. They moved here
Hmm.
to the state. My father ended up opening up his own automotive repair shop. So I grew up in that type of household, with cars and those types of things. But honestly, I was also a kid of the '80s. I loved action movies. And certainly, you can't escape. And I know that I'm not the first guest that you've had on your show that was influenced by the movies that we watched growing up. So um, probably earlier than I should have watched them, but definitely watched Rambo and you know Missing in Action and Commando and
I was going to
Predator.
ask you about Commando. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
You just can't get away from it. And, before Charlie Sheen and Michael Biehn made a splash on the screen with Navy SEALs, the Green Berets, of course, played a much more prominent role in Hollywood movies. So for me, I was always inspired and in awe by the Green Berets. And for a while, as a as a kid, I really, really wanted to be Green Beret. So much so that when I was 13, I went to a surplus store and I bought a Green Beret. And that is the actual Green Beret that I ended up using throughout my military career.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Huh.
But, I mean, high school, different ideas of what I wanted to do, kind of lost the drive initially for a little while to join the military. Became much more focused on uh, pursuing a music degree in college is where I met my wife here in but all those things changed after 9/11,
Hmm.
quite frankly. And um, I know again, I'm likely not the only guest that was influenced by that day to make, a life altering decision. And for me, that life altering decision was to go active duty. I was the first 18 X-ray candidate from Hawaii at the time, which was that program that let you go straight off the street and try your hand at becoming a Green Beret. So I did that shortly after 9/11. I didn't leave for basic training until 2002, so that gave me a bit of time to start training up
I
and
was going to
just
ask you. Yeah.
being prepared, physically prepared. And I was able to snatch a hard copy of the Special Forces Selection Train Up Handbook before I ever went to basic. So I started running and rucking and doing all those things before I ever joined active duty, and that paid huge dividends. Quite frankly, it wasn't easy but it was easier than I think it would have been otherwise.
Did you train with anyone, or is this you did it on your own prior
Just me.
to?
Yep,
Wow.
just me on my own.
So are you naturally gifted with discipline and focus and that kind of mindset to like, I can do this on my own, organize a training plan and implement it?
Honestly, I think it depends on what
Okay.
it is. It
Fair enough.
depends on what it
All right.
with this particular thing, it felt like a calling, and I
Okay.
was single-mindedly focused on achieving this goal, and that motivation led me to develop this discipline that led me to follow through and complete this rigorous training program from this little booklet, before I went to basic training, and then from there, the Army took over and guided me along my way.
Was basic training pretty easy for you, having trained up for selection already?
It was easier. Yes, it was easier. Um, the active duty class I was in had, uh, quite a few, folks trying out for the SFAS program, this 18 X-ray program. So I wasn't the only one there. There were a handful of former Marines. There was one former Marine, one former National Guard, member as well. So we had a handful of folks.
The former Marine, whose first name wasn't Will, was it? Do you happen to remember?
No. God.
It's just been a small world because I have a good friend who ended up being SF, but it's left. He was a Marine Raider before they did MARSOC. Left the Marine Corps, joined the Army, and I was like, that'd be so small worldish if he was part of your crew there.
I can see him in my mind's eye. I mean, this is over 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, of
But I can
course, yeah,
see him in my mind's eye,
yeah.
and it's like at the tip of my tongue, and I just can't remember his name. But he was
Fair
in the
enough.
Marine. He was a scout sniper,
Oh, okay,
so he's already in his previous career field,
yeah,
uh, kind of on his way.
yeah. So, what did you learn about yourself going through selection and then eventually becoming the Green Beret?
The journey was difficult, and I learned. Well, first of all, I kept telling myself, "I want to see what I'm capable of. I want to see where my limit is."
Nice.
That
Okay.
that's a mantra that I kept telling myself. Said, "I wanna see if I can accomplish this." Not even thinking about what the job was specifically, but just this rigorous physical and mental program that that, you know, the special warfare community developed. Uh, that was a big part. And the other part was dealing with adversity.
All right.
Um, I have very clear memories of being in selection, and I was never the fastest guy. I was also never the slowest guy. I think I was somewhere in the middle. Um, but just like constantly assessing where I was at. Um, and it wasn't always pretty. There was a lot of negative self-talk.
Okay.
Uh, you're not walking fast enough. You're not running fast enough. You need to move faster. You got to figure this out. It's slipping away. Your dream is slipping away. You're
Wow.
losing it. Uh, you need to keep going. Um, and I'd have these internal discussions with myself as I'm still trying to like, okay, I need to navigate. I need to know where I'm going. Um, and then I'd still remember, like, I want to accomplish this. I really, really want to accomplish this. And I made it. Like, I pushed myself far enough that I made it. First time go.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, the kind of the negative self talk or the drive inside yourself to do a little faster, or walk, run, whatever it is. I mean, retrospectively, did you find that that's the thing that helped push you over the edge to make sure you accomplished this goal, or is it other forces or drives inside you that also contributed, or what?
I think the negative self-talk definitely played a significant role because I was afraid of failure.
Okay.
And I saw that not completing this would be failure. I mean, just for anybody, not familiar with the program, anybody that even steps up to sign the dotted line to complete this training or go to ranger training or go to SEAL training or, MARSOC Raider training or any special operations training that you can think of, that's a significant step. And anybody that steps up to the plate, I think, should be applauded for that. But for you that's in the arena, you don't wanna just be temporarily in the arena. You wanna accomplish your goals. You wanna see it through. Yeah.
So once you obviously became a Green Beret, what were some of your activities that you did, and how long did you serve?
I did a full 20 in the military.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. And I was very, very lucky. I was very lucky. Um, after high school, I did a bunch of odd jobs here and there. One of those working at Radio Shack. Um,
And then
and
from
I
our past,
yes,
Radio Shack. Wow. Okay.
and I just
Yeah.
started tinkering with computers and computer games and messing around with that stuff. And I took a liking to the electronics piece. And after selection, they give you your potential group assignment and your job, your MOS that you're going to get. So for me, as a native German speaker, I was hoping beyond hope that I would get assigned to 10th group, specifically to be stationed in Germany, and I got it. Like I got it. Uh,
Nice. Okay.
so I was over the moon that I got it. And then um, they also allowed me to be an 18 Echo, so as a communications guy, and that fit right into stuff that I enjoy doing anyway.
Yeah.
So I felt very, very fortunate. The rest of the Q course was obviously very difficult, as it's designed to be. The attrition rate is still pretty high. Um, but I finished the Q course, got to my first duty assignment in Germany, and was assigned to a mobility team, which just means we drove around in our Humvees. Fancy name, um, but very unique career from the start. As soon as I got to Germany, I was temporarily assigned to the signals detachment before I was able to get to uh, an operational detachment alpha, and uh, just got a little bit of mentorship from some of our communications enablers on how communications actually works in group.
Hmm.
Um, and I spent about maybe about a month or two there before I got pulled into going to an operational detachment. And this operational detachment was preparing to support um, an operation in Bosnia,
Okay.
where we were still active in Bosnia at the time. This was in 2004, and we were preparing to support the PIFWIC mission, which is the persons indicted for war crimes.
Right. 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 Right.
And so we're just going after the folks that were active in these atrocities that were happening in the country there. And right out the gate, I get pulled into a class that's being taught in Germany by former SAS and former British police on, take your uniform off, stop wearing that, get weird, start understanding how to use all of this tech and doing all this surveillance stuff and human and physical surveillance stuff. And like this is not what I ever expected uh, my SF career to start with, let alone continue. Because quite frankly, my career kind of followed this trajectory where I kept finding myself in these specialty assignments where I was doing other things that people maybe have come to expect from a special forces guy, right? Yes, I had to do the obligatory trips to Afghanistan to conduct operations there, counterterrorism operations there. But for the most of my military career, it always had a foot in the intelligence community, supporting intelligence operations. So, yeah, doing that. Also, did my first trip to Africa within 3 months of getting into the country because um, there was unrest in the country of the Ivory Coast, and the French were being targeted by Islamic fundamentalists in the north, and the command at the time was concerned about the safety of U.S. Embassy personnel. So I was just part of a small team to do an assessment of evacuation, like an evacuation feasibility assessment, in case we had to evacuate by air, sea, or ground, any American citizens or service members or folks assigned to the embassy there. So eye opening. Africa, amazing. Loved Africa, even though we were only there for about 10 days or so. And I was like, oh, I wish I could go back to Africa. Well, be careful what you wish for. I spent a lot of time in Africa. I spent a lot of time in Africa. Most of my time in West Africa, and I loved every minute of it. It was obviously stressful. You see the best of humanity and you see the worst of humanity as people struggle on a daily basis just to make ends meet or just to survive.
Mm.
But you also see the generosity between humans that have nothing. Um, and it was just a fascinating uh, part of my military career that I absolutely love, absolutely love. Um,
What did you learn about yourself while you're in Africa?
that I didn't know as much as I thought I did.
Okay.
My wife likes to rib me on the fact that when we were in college, I would just walk around like I knew everything. You couldn't tell me anything, and maybe that's just being a young man. I didn't need anything. I knew it all, and I very quickly realized that I didn't know anything.
Mm.
And I just opened myself to learning different perspectives, um, even from a side of the training that we've had, just learning perspectives from different cultures. And that's
Nice.
really carried over to me is to try to understand different belief systems, uh, how people see the world, how they see themselves, uh, different music
Mm.
traditions,
Mhm, mhm.
different clothing traditions, different religious traditions. And I love food, so absolutely different food traditions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right, right.
So it was that was really the start on this lifelong journey that I've been on, and it's been
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, special forces, they're known for being with indigenous forces for training purposes. Is that what you did a lot of your work when you're in West Africa, with training indigenous forces?
Uh, on a few occasions, yes. On a few occasions, yes. Other times, I was just working at the embassy, supporting other operations, other
Okay.
contingency operations that we were
Yeah.
prioritizing.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right. Yeah. Now,
but
so where did the game reserve, like where where did your Nomad International as that idea, did it generate first when you were in Africa doing your work, Army Special Forces, like, or did it, like, how did that arise in your mind as something you want to take all these skills and capacities and build a, build a career out of after the military?
I mean, it starts first of all with the fact that I love animals. I
Nice.
love animals. Um, and the trips to Africa obviously afforded me the opportunity to see wildlife and habitats that I've never experienced before,
Nice.
um, regardless of where I've been. And I was just absolutely amazed by it. In 2012, um, the the team that I was on was supporting a training operation where we did work with our foreign partners. And this particular country had issues with poaching. It was such a big issue with poaching that National Geographic did a spread on it.
Okay.
There were Islamic fundamentalists coming across from Sudan
Mm.
into a wildlife preserve, and they were using the full array of weapon systems that they themselves had at their disposal. Rocket propelled grenade launchers and machine guns and you name it. And they were uh, quite literally slaughtering these elephants for their ivory to support their transnational terrorist activities.
Yeah, yeah.
The national park that we were working with had a former French commando, I think he was, he wrote a letter to the French ambassador. He also wrote a letter to the American ambassador saying that we need help. And the American ambassador felt that this may be a perfect opportunity for us to partner with the host nation's, uh, you know, counterterrorism force to collaborate and to do some counter poaching work. And the
Nice.
counter poaching work, it was, at the time, it was just merely our presence in the park helped to deter any activity in the park while we were there. Now, I don't know what happened after we left, but at least while we were there, the presence itself helped to deter any poaching activity. Had numerous conversations with this French gentleman about the challenges that he has in uh, his own counter poaching activities in the park, the challenges that are posed to just in general to the wildlife conservation industry. And that was really the spark that started. I wonder if there's a way that we could use some of the skill sets that we have to make a difference. Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, that was the start. And then, of course, driving back from these remote areas back to the capital, and then you're driving along the roadway, and you see very obviously poached animals being sold roadside, or you see um, eh, huge, giant trees being transported that were cut down through illegal logging practices down to the ports to get them out of the country. And talking to folks at the embassy and talking to some of the locals about the complexity of the issue, that it's not just criminals doing criminal things. For some of these folks, it's I need to feed my family.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's not as simple as you're mad at me because I killed this gazelle. Well, I killed that gazelle because I have to eat and I have to sell the meat to survive because whatever we got going in this country is not working for me. So just understanding how complex it is. Um, Over the next couple of years, I started to learn more about the wildlife conservation community, the work that's being done, and I stumbled across uh, a wildlife conservation champion named Rory Young. And Rory came from what was then still Zimbabwe. Uh, was then still Rhodesia, excuse me, now Zimbabwe. And he and I just started talking. I think it was on Facebook about the work that he's doing in the neighboring country where I was deployed to in Africa. And uh, I was able to do a couple of introductions for him in that country through the U.S. Embassy that helped him further the goals that he was supporting, which is to protect a very rare West African elephant. Not try, but there's a group of wild elephants that still roam West Africa, and he was working on protecting them and training rangers to protect them. Now that conversation then led us to maintaining contact for the next couple of years. And when I was back in the States, I saw that he was uh, going to be in Los Angeles to support a fundraising effort. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. I can go to LA, as I was living in Colorado at the time.
Okay. All right.
And I said, I can go to LA and meet him there. So I did exactly that. I went to Los Angeles, I met him, and I met somebody else that I'm actually closely aligned with right now, who's the CEO of another wildlife conservation nonprofit called Global Conservation Force.
Okay.
And Global Conservation Force is the CEO. He's managed by Mike Veal, another Mike, who used to work at the San Diego Zoo.
Okay.
And again, same thing as with Rory. Mike and I started talking every now and then about, hey man, when are you retiring? Like, we got to figure out a way that we can figure out how you can get integrated with this stuff. I kept a pulse on that, but of course I also had other priorities that I was focused on while I was still in the service. So the conservation piece took a bit of a back burner, to be honest.
Mm.
And as I was getting ready to retire, Rory was unfortunately killed uh, during a trip to Burkina Faso. It was in the news back in, I think, 2021, where him and his team were kidnapped by fundamentalists, and they ended up killing the hostages. And had a conversation with his uh, replacement about, hey, now that you're retiring, we'd like to get you plugged in. And quite honestly, I just didn't feel that that was a good time or a good fit, given some of the uh, issues that I identified with how they were running the shop, how they're running the show. And I just didn't feel it was a good fit at the time. So instead, I prioritized, hey, let me just retire. Part of that retirement is moving home. So my wife and I packed up our stuff, and we moved home. And we knew we wanted to move home, but we didn't really have a plan beyond that. So, as we're now talking about what'd you do after you retired? Well, let me tell you, boy, oh boy, all kind. Uh, my first job was working as a private investigator, supporting as a
Wow.
private investigator.
Okay, cool.
Um, did I mention I'm a child of the '80s?
So
Can you?
Magnum PI,
You got it.
I actually got trained and practiced as a PI and a PPS, personal protection specialist for a little while too. Yeah, I love Magnum PI. That's awesome. I'm a child of
So
the 80s as well.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
uh, I was also an active member of the Special Forces Association here in the
Okay.
state. Now, when you retire from the military, one of the things that they always tell you is like, hey, you got to be sure that you network and you got to find a way to just throw yourself out there. So for me, throwing myself into this association was an opportunity for me to network, to understand what was going on in the country or in the state, excuse me, and just to figure out if there's meaningful work for me now that I'm retired. Because quite frankly, and I'm sure you saw the same thing, the PI thing got old quick. It's certainly not glamorous at all. Uh, or, but there are a lot of lessons learned
Mm.
from that, which I'll touch on a little later.
Yeah, yeah. Please, please. I'd be curious.
But one of the associate members of the association, was running for governor, and he was building a team to help him as part of his campaign team. And I initially started as the communications manager, and eventually became the campaign manager. And if you ever want to know what's happening in your state, or where the real problems are, boy, that is a great way to just drink from the proverbial fire hose. Certainly, you have an agenda because you're a politician that you're trying to promote, but you're also hearing from all of the locals that are sharing about the hardships, what's working, what's not working, and looking to you for answers.
Yeah.
And uh, I mean, certainly we didn't have all the answers. I mean, it's impossible to have all these answers. Some of the issues that we have here in the state go back 60 years, right?
Yeah.
And beyond that, to when to before when Hawaii was a state. There's just challenges here that are very complex.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Now, after the campaign was over, we hit our limit of advance. That was it for us. We're done. I looked again for meaningful work, and I landed at the Red Cross. So I took a job at the Red Cross, working as the senior disaster program manager
Mm.
for the Pacific region. Fancy title, but all it meant was that I had a, a, a team of uh, employees that worked underneath me that were responsible for managing all the volunteers on the other islands, the Hawaiian Islands, and then in the Pacific, so Guam, Saipan, and American Samoa as well. And that really separate eye-opening event about the challenges to the infrastructure of the state. How can Hawaii thrive and survive after a major man-made or natural disaster? So it was fascinating to be part of these conversations and sharing some of the insights that I've learned um, from my time in special forces about team building, responding to crisis, staying calm in a crisis. Um, but at the end of the day, people are people, and you know, some institutions are so established that you show up with your great ideas, and they're just going to be great ideas, right? And it's okay. It's okay. Like it's absolutely fine. Um, the the biggest crisis that we faced while I was working in that sitting in that seat was the Lahaina wildfires.
Okay.
Um, and the outpouring of support from the local community, from the international community was overwhelming. And it was amazing to see financially, material goods, and of course the lifeblood of the Red Cross, which is their volunteers.
Mm.
So many people came to volunteer just to help out. And it was
Nice.
it was amazing. It was really, really amazing. And then, of course, not just the Red Cross, the great work that FEMA did to step in to provide federal aid, and all of the different NGOs under the sun that were either well established already at that time to provide support or newly developed to provide support. It was really amazing to see. Uh,
How did they? How did the feds, the state, and then the NGOs? How well do they kind of coordinate with each other?
I felt that they did a fairly decent job because, of course, everybody has a different idea of what the priority is. I mean, of course, yes, help ease the suffering and rebuild in a responsible manner. But
Yeah.
everybody has a different way. Like the Red Cross way is different from,
Mm.
uh, you know, FEMA's way, which is different from the state's emergency management agency. So everybody has like we all share like that pie where everything kind of touches a little bit, but
Yeah.
we we uh, we all have our own responsibilities and our ways of doing things. So it was a tremendous opportunity to not just talk about it, but to be about uh, collaborating towards a
Mhm.
common. Yeah, it was. I thought that given the severity of the crisis, the disaster, the response was it. It really worked. I think the way it was supposed to,
Of
not without its challenges.
course.
Certain,
Yeah.
certain, always, but the things did what they were designed to do.
Nice. Nice. All right. So you Red Cross, and you obviously leave the Red Cross. Is that when you go and just create Nomad International?
Yes. So I left the Red Cross at a time when um, the Red Cross's footprint on Maui was starting to wind down. There were some leadership changes as well. I just felt it was a good time for me to leave and pursue something that I really wanted to pursue,
Okay.
um,
Nice.
which was my business. Um, and the the business initially was focused more on security than on the conservation piece.
Okay.
Um, so to that end, I worked with local clients to do security audits to essentially red team their property and help them identify solutions to protect it. Yeah. Um, but then of course I had a conversation with. Go ahead.
Is it mostly in West Africa or other locations? Like, where were your first series of clients?
Here, local.
Here, local to
Here,
Hawaii.
here. Yep.
Okay, got it, got it, got it. Okay,
Just want to survive.
all right, cool, cool.
Yes. So then,
You didn't have to go that far. Just drive
yeah,
down the
I didn't
street.
have to
Got
go
it.
far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So of course, the conversation then happened with Mike Veal again from Global Conservation Force. There's got to be a way for us to integrate and do some work together. And we kind of went back and forth, and we had some ideas. And he doesn't spend all his time in Africa either. So I was in a bit of a holding pattern, waiting for him to kind of let me know what the requirements were of the clients that he has, that he works with, so that I could develop a tailored training program to meet the challenges that they're facing. And the first iteration that I've been able to work with them focused, on situational awareness, understanding human human and behavioral cues, or rather, human and environmental cues. Um, an intelligence program to help them build a very rudimentary intelligence program for their ranger framework, and just understand how the intelligence works, like top to bottom, how it's all supposed to be integrated, and how it extends beyond uh, the rangers, but integrates also the folks working at the lodges, the owners of the lodges, and the owners of the properties.
Nice. Is this where
Um,
Silent Watch came into existence? Like putting all these pieces together and building this program?
the turn came later, yes, but that's where it all kind of came from. Um, as I continued after my first trip to South Africa, which is where most of the work is at, um, there's nothing like actually being on the ground and seeing the challenges firsthand to help kind of guide uh, which way the program needs to go. And honestly, this is something that I saw during my time in special forces as well. And I'll give you an anecdote from that time when we we traveled to one of the countries that we were working with our partners with. Um, for any trip that we did, we would do a train up. Each member of the ODA was assigned a specific task. Like, hey, Mike, you're going to teach, the operation cycle, or you're going to teach like whatever we're allowed to teach with our communication stuff. But you're also going to teach some tactics thing. So we all practice, we take turns teaching each other so that we're best prepared when we deploy to go there and teach them the thing that we all agreed they need to learn. And then we get there and they're like, we don't want that. We could, we could really use this other thing instead. Can you guys teach us this other thing? Okay. I mean, yeah. So that happens, unfortunately, more often than not. So as I deployed, as I did my trip to South Africa now, I came with all of these different ideas and these classes, and some of it was a good fit and some of it wasn't a good fit
Okay.
because, quite honestly, the audience didn't have the background or the need to learn some of the stuff that I was teaching. It just it just wasn't appropriate.
Okay.
So as I came back from that trip, I took a lot of notes and I started developing more appropriate training modules that that will help them. And I thought about my trips in the military a lot about what is the what does the target audience actually want versus what am I trying to shove down their throats?
Right,
Right.
right. Yeah.
And if I don't know something, then I need to find somebody who can help me. So just started, networking with other former colleagues from the industry, from special forces that I can take with me on subsequent trips to teach a thing that they're really good at and provides the customer what it is that they actually want versus me teaching them something that I just want them to learn, right? I
Yeah.
just don't do that. Yeah,
So it sounds like you have modulars, but they're adapters to the needs of the particular client and the situation they find themselves in the context. I would
true.
imagine it evolves over time depending who you're with and what they're working on, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Nice. So is now most of your stuff in Southern Africa or South Africa itself?
South Africa appears to be where most of the work is going to be at in the near term. Um, the the trusted partnership that I have with Global Conservation Force allows me to work through them and work with their clients directly to provide them the bespoke training programs that I can provide. The Global Conservation Force, in their own right, are fantastic in teaching the rangers, the basic ranger training program, tracking, patrolling, identifying snares, understanding all the animals. Like these are all things that, despite my time in the military, I'm not a subject matter expert in, and I won't, claim to be in, but I can provide something else that brings value
Yeah.
to the industry as a whole, and that's what I focus on.
Now, are most game reserves privately owned or combination private and some are run by the state or the government in a particular country? That's
It is a combination.
okay.
Yes, it's a combination. So in South Africa specifically, I can speak to that. It there are uh, state owned or government owned properties. Most famous, of course, Kruger.
Oh,
Kruger
okay.
Kruger National Park in South Africa is a South African government property. Touching on the borders of that are private properties, private game reserves.
Oh,
Some are for watching animals and some are for hunting animals. So depending on what the flavor is of the business that they're trying to run. And a lot of times what happens is they'll have like these private game reserves, and on that private game reserve, they'll have a handful of um, luxury resorts. So of course they have their guides that drive folks around, and they look at animals and they take pictures of them. And then behind the scenes are the rangers who are doing all the literal grunt work of making sure that there's no holes in the fences, monitoring for snares, keeping on top of um, any animals that are killed in the park. Was it natural? Were they poisoned? Were they shot? And there's a whole science about how they determine how these animals uh, met their fate.
okay.
A- And right, and the the a lot of times they tend to stay within the park, but there have been now uh, more collaborative opportunities for these private game reserves to work closer with the state and local police.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's got to be really helpful, and just in terms of keeping the crime down and the crime inside these reserves,
right,
protecting animals and such. That's great.
right. And as I already mentioned, it's a complex issue, right? Because are these animals being poached specifically because they're high value animals and they're looking to resell their hide or their tusks or what name you,
Yeah.
or are these animals being poached for subsistence because people can't survive? Um, in in one of the West African countries where I was working at when I was still in the service, horrible conditions, and the national park down there would have a lot of poaching activity. And when we talked to the rangers there or folks that were working there to figure out why was this happening, they said, quite frankly, the people are starving. Like
Mhm.
people are literally digging up termite mounds and eating termites and whatever the termites pull into their termite mounds. So given that, or killing a gazelle or whatever they can, wild boar caught in a snare, they'll take their chances.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, it's. I think it's too easy for us to sit on our high horse and say, "How could you kill this?"
Is there much more of a holistic approach now? Like, hey, we have to actually address the subsidiary subsistence needs of locals while we're also trying to protect the animals, while we're trying to protect the park, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, are they kind of looking at
Yeah.
this more holistically, like you're suggesting?
Yes, sir. It
Okay.
it obviously depends on the individual game reserves and the country, but from what I've seen,
Mm.
there's a concerted effort to do more to protect the animals by integrating the local communities,
Okay.
bringing school kids to see the animals,
Nice. Okay.
Um, one of the places in South Africa that I worked at, they have an education center. So they'll bring kids to the education center and they'll talk about all the different animals and where they live and the habitat, so the kids can see what it's all about.
Mm,
And honestly, it's breaking through. I think a stigma that's been developed that this is a white man's thing. What what
okay.
what does your elephant and cheetah and lion do for me? Brings money to the industry, which the money then goes back into the community, which, it's that holistic approach. And there's definitely still work that needs to be done, but work is being done.
Excellent. That's good to hear. So game reserve would call Nomad International your company. Would you go over there with like a couple weeks to assess and then train? Like how does it actually work for you on the ground on a regular basis?
It would start with a phone call. It would start with an email.
Okay.
I need help. Tell me what's going on, and I try to find out what the issues are that they're dealing with. And if I can help them without traveling, I'll obviously do that.
Nice.
But
Okay.
as I already identified, and I mentioned already, is there's nothing that can substitute being in the country and seeing the problems firsthand. Because quite frankly, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And while
Right.
you and I are talking, and I'm telling you the sky is red because that's how I see it, you know that the sky's actually blue, but you won't know that until you're actually with me.
Right. Right.
Use a really bad example, but you,
Well, I get your point. It kind of goes back to what you're sharing with about your wife. Like she helps you see that
right,
you don't necessarily know everything, and it's
right,
always good to learn new facts, perspectives, worldviews, trying to understand the culture, all through food. I mean, you mentioned like all kinds of different ways in, and food is one example, and I think you might have mentioned dance as another example. Like all cultures express themselves so uniquely in multiple different areas. Like to have an assumption, I know what the thing is kind of limits us to actually knowing possibly what the thing is. So I appreciate your wife's admonition of you many, many decades ago or whatever it was. That's awesome.
you're watching. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Love it. That's good. Yeah. All right. So like someone with reserve, and it doesn't, just so I'm clear, I mean, you work mostly in South Africa or Southern Africa, but if someone from like Indonesia, Malaysia, South America, like you would, because you're international, I assume you could work in multiple different places across the globe.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Honestly, we're still in the building phase, right? So at the moment, I'm still tethered primarily to global conservation force. But if the need arises, if a client contacts me and needs help, we'll go wherever.
Nice, nice. And how do they contact you, and how do they find out more about what you're up to?
Sure. Is this my shameless plug?
This is your shameless plug. Make it a good one.
Yeah. So you're, of course, able to visit me at my website, which is www.thenomadknows.com.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. And you can also reach me on LinkedIn. I tend to be very active on LinkedIn under my first and last name. You can reach me that way. You can also reach me by my email, which is mike@thenomadknows.com.
Nice. I'll make sure to include all of those things in the show notes.
Excellent. Sure, sure, sure.
Definitely encourage folks to check you out and for game reserves all across the globe to reach out to you for your help and assistance. Mike, this is great. It's
Yeah.
nice to learn more about what you're up to, and I definitely encourage folks to check you out. Appreciate
Thank you
your
very
time.
much. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Good to see you, man.